to KCS at Home. I'm another second grade teacher over at Breaking the Cloud, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about geometry. Now we have 3 different sections to talk about today, so let's go ahead and get started. Our first section is talking about identifying shapes, and our goal for today is I am learning to identify polygons based on their attributes. Now before we dive into those words, what do you think a polygon is? What do you think an attribute is? Those are some really big words that we're going to actually go ahead and talk about. The first word is polygon. Alright, now this is a shape that has all straight sides and they all connect. So that means the sides aren't going to curve. So think about a circle. A circle would not be a polygon because its sides are not straight, they're curved. Alright, and it all has to connect to each other. So think about our greater than sign. Alright, it has straight sides, but it doesn't connect. Alright, so it needs to have all sides that connect. Let's look at a few of these examples. So first here, I see this first shape. It does have all straight sides. And then they also all connect. There's no gaps. So we'll give it a check mark saying yes, it is a polygon. Now this next shape here, it does all have straight sides. But is it a polygon? No, it's not. It doesn't all connect. We have some empty space there. Next, I do see it has all straight sides, and they're all connected, so yep, that's a polygon. This next one might look very familiar. It has all straight sides, they're all connected, so yes, it's a polygon. Our next one looks pretty familiar too. I see it does have all straight sides. Why would this one not be a polygon? You're correct. It's not totally filled in. There are sides that don't touch. So, yeah, it's not a polygon. Down here, this is our circle. We already talked about that. Is a circle a polygon? No, it's not. It doesn't have straight sides. This next one here, it's got a very straight sides. All right, notice it's not a curve. It's 2 straight sides there. So, it is a polygon. Our next one, first of all, are they all connected? No, so we know right away it's not a polygon. And are these straight sides? Not at all. Definitely not a polygon. Our next one, very familiar polygon, has 4 sides, alright, and they're all touching, so yep, it's a polygon. Now our last one, I see it's got some sides here, but I notice, and it's all touching, but I notice one of these sides is curved. So remember, a polygon has to have straight sides. So nope, this one is not a polygon actually. So our next word that we're going to talk about is the word attributes. Can you say that with me? Attributes. So attributes are basically when we're talking about shapes, it's basically their characteristics. It's how many sides and angles, some people call them corners, a shape has. So let's look at this triangle for an example. So we see circled here are all of our corners. Now the corners are where 2 sides meet. And then we also see the sides. So looking at this shape, we see that it has 1, 2, 3 sides and 1, 2, 3 corners. So when identifying these attributes, we would write that the triangle has 3 sides and 3 corners. So let's look at a bunch of different polygons and count up their sides and corners. So first, we've already done the triangle. We know that it has 3 sides and 3 corners. Now our pentagon here, let's count up those sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the pentagon has 5 sides. Let's count its corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So pentagon has 5 sides and 5 corners. Let's look at our next shape here. I see it's called a hexagon. Let's see how many sides a hexagon has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 sides. Let's count its corners. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. A good way to remember this is hex has an X in it as well as 6. So a hexagon has 6 sides and 6 corners. Now there are these special shapes called quadrilaterals. That's a big fancy word. Everybody say quadrilaterals. Alright, quad means 4. So quadrilaterals all have 4 sides and 4 corners. Now there's a bunch of different types of quadrilaterals, and we're going to we see it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides and 1, 2, 3, 4 corners. Now what makes a rectangle is it all has straight sides, but 2 sides are longer than the other 2 sides. Alright, because compare it to the square here. We see that the square has 4 sides and 4 corners, but all of these sides are the exact same size. Alright, so that's the difference between a square and a rectangle. In a rectangle, all the sides aren't the same length. In a square, they are the same length. Now this one, I love this shape. It's called a trapezoid. I think it's just fun to say. So trapezoid here, we see it does have our 4 sides. It does have those 4 corners. But what do you notice that's different about the trapezoid compared to the square and rectangle? If you notice that the sides were kind of angled, you're right. That's what makes the trapezoid different. 2 of the sides are angled. They're not straight up and down or straight sideways. So that's what makes a trapezoid different. This last one is called a rhombus. Now, a lot of you might know this as a diamond shape, but a rhombus doesn't have to be the perfect diamond shape. What makes a rhombus is all of the sides are the same length, but they can be in any angle. So a square, it's got to be perfect, straight up, straight down, straight to the side. A rhombus can go any which way. All right, so now it's your turn. This is a longer video, so if you want to pause the video to try this on your own, what you're going to be doing, you're going to count the number of sides and corners for each of the shapes in your packet. Then you're going to write the name of that shape underneath. So you can go back and look at what we've already talked about. You can rewind this video. And if you want a special challenge, I challenge you to color all the quadrilaterals blue, since that's something that we talked about. I'll see you back in just 1 minute. All right, and we're back. The next thing we're going to talk about in geometry is tiling rectangles. So our goal for this section is I am learning to use squares to tile rectangles. Well, what does that mean to tile something? I want you to think about maybe a builder who uses tiles or pieces of wood to fill in a space. That's basically what we're going to be doing. We're going to be using squares to fill in rectangles. So what I want you to do, if you have time, I want you to see if you can find some squares. Maybe you've got some blocks or the little Legos that are a perfect square. See if you can find 12 squares. Maybe you cut them out of paper. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use these squares. If you can, if not, you can look right here. We're going to see how many ways we can make a rectangle using just 12 squares. So you can see here, you can put them all in one row and make a really long, skinny rectangle. You can also put them in 2 rows. Now, to put them in 2 rows, we have to make sure they're even, because remember, a rectangle, how many sides does it have? It has 4 sides, so we can't have it any more than just them 4 sides. So let's count. Each row has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares in each row. All right, so that means we have to have the same amount in the bottom row to make a perfect rectangle. So let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So yes, we have perfectly tiled a rectangle using squares. Now there's another way we can tile a rectangle using squares. We're going to, instead of 2 rows, put the squares into 3 rows. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in the top row. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the second row. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the third row. So we've got 3 rows there, you can see, and we've got 4 squares in each row. So if we were to describe this, we would say there are 3 rows of squares, and there are 4 squares in each row. Pretty easy peasy, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to try to draw our own squares. So when we're tiling rectangles, we can tile the same rectangle in different ways. The important thing is it has to be with squares. Okay, so we're going to look at these 2 rectangles that I have provided here, and we're going to answer the questions that you see down here to the side. We're going to answer some of those questions. So the first question is, we're going to look at our first rectangle here. How many rows are there? So we're looking here, and I see there's 1 row and 2 rows. So we've got 2 rows. How many squares are in those rows? I see 1, 2. So 2 rows with 2 squares in each row. So now we need to figure out how many squares are in all. Well, this one would be easy to count up, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I think it'd be even easier if we counted by 2's, since we have rows of 2's. So we could go 2, 4, knowing that there's 4 all together in that rectangle. Now, what is an equation that we could show this with? Let's think back towards when we did arrays. Think back to repeated addition. Now with this one, there's 2 rows, and there's 2 squares in each row. So let's add up each row. Let's say 2 plus 2 equals 4. Got it. So that's an equation to show that rectangle. Now I have the exact same shape of the rectangle next to that, but it's all different. What do you notice that's different between the two? This one has more squares. The squares are also smaller. There's also more rows. So let's take a look and answer our questions with this one. So our first question is, how many rows are there? Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, and 4 rows. Now the second question is, how many squares are in each row? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, let's think. Do I need to go through the rest of these and count up each square? No, I don't, because we see that they're all the same to make that rectangle. So we have 4 rows with 4 squares in each row. So how many squares are there in all? Well, let's see. Would we want to count each of these up all by themselves? Maybe not. Is there an easier way that we could do it? We could count by 4s. We could go 4, 8, what comes next, you guys? 12 and 16. Very good. We could also, if counting by 4s is a little tricky, we could count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. So we know that there are 16 squares in all. Now our last question says, can you think of an equation? So think some repeated addition. Go back to our first question. How many rows are there? Well, there's 4 rows. And how many are in each row? That's right, 4 squares in each row. So we're going to add 4. And how many times are we going to add that 4? Let's see. I've got 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. So yeah, that tells me there's going to be 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. We're adding 4 times, and that gives me the total of 16. Okay, now it's your turn. All you're going to be doing is you're going to be drawing in squares to fill in the rectangles. Now it's really important that all of your squares are the same size. If they're not the same size, are the tiles going to look correct? No. Are you going to be able to have perfect rows? No. So it's very important to remember all your squares have to be the exact same size as the ones that are already drawn for you. Now if you want a special challenge on this one, write an equation for each rectangle. Think about that repeated addition. So pause this video, try it on your own, and we'll meet back for our very last part of geometry. Alright friends, we're on our very last part of geometry. You all are doing super great. Just one more part, and this part is pretty fun. This part is called dividing shapes into equal parts. So we're learning to equally divide shapes into halves, thirds, and fourths. Now I'm sure you know there's lots of other ways to divide shapes, but we're just going to focus on these 3. So let's take a look here at the equal parts vocabulary. Alright, equal is the same size or amount. So think about when you're sharing maybe a cookie with your brother and sister, or your mom or dad, or your grandma, or your cat. Alright, now when you're breaking apart that cookie, do you want the size to be the same? Yeah, you do, because if not, they might pick the bigger half and then you're left with the measly little piece of a cookie. Alright, so when we talk about equal parts and fractions, one of the things that's important to talk about is the whole. Now the whole means all of it, the complete and total part of whatever we're dividing up. Could be a pizza, could be a circle, whatever. Now half means we've divided it into 2 equal parts. You can see here, looking at the pizza, it's in 2 equal parts. Or if we're looking at the square and circle, 2 equal parts. There's 2 parts. Now a third to do it in a circle. All right, in our rectangle, we also see 3 equal pieces. Now with a fourth, it's 4 equal parts. So we know, looking at that pizza, we've got it divided up into fourths. All right, we also have words like 1/4, 1/2, 1/3, and that means just one part of the whole. Now, this is a lot of vocabulary, and I think the easiest way for us to learn it is to watch a video together. I know you all love Brain Pop. My kids always love Brain Pop. So we're going to take a minute and watch this video together that I think is really going to help us figure out what all these equal parts are about.
Wait, stop. You're supposed to share with the whole class. Moby, that's not fair. Everyone is supposed to get equal parts of the sandwich. What is a fraction? A fraction tells you the number of parts out of a whole. Not that kind of whole, Moby. Something is whole when it has all of its parts. I love muffins. This whole muffin has 2 equal parts. In a fraction, the number of parts goes under a line. There are 2 parts. You took 1 part of the muffin, and that number goes on top. So this fraction shows you took 1 out of 2 parts. You can also write this as 1/2. What is a half? When you split something in half, you make 2 equal parts. Right, Moby, there are 2 halves in a whole. Half for you and half for me. There are 2 equal pieces, and we each get 1 piece. Sometimes I see a half moon at night. And everyone loves a half day of school. What is a third? We can share this cake between you, me, and Grandpop. We can cut the cake into thirds. That means we divide it into 3 equal pieces. We each get 1 slice. So Grandpop gets 1 out of 3 slices. We each get 1/3 of the whole cake. There are 3 of us, but only 1 is a robot. So 1 out of 3 of us is a robot. What is a fourth? I love apple pie, and this pie has 4 equal slices. You took 1 slice. So you took 1 out of 4 slices, or 1/4 of the slices. 1/4 is also called 1/4. Exactly, Moby. There are 4 quarters in a dollar. So 1/4 is 1/4 of a dollar. I can divide a lot of things into fourths. Like a piece of paper, a cup of water, an inch, or an hour. I think all this sugar is making us sick, Moby. We better cut up the sandwich so everyone can get an equal piece. It's okay, Moby. I've got a slice saved right here. Wait, you're supposed to give me half. I guess you can keep mine.
Alright, you guys, that was a great video that gave us lots of great information, and I think it's going to help you be ready for your next assignment. So what you're going to be doing for your last part of geometry is you're going to try to divide these shapes into fourths, halves, and thirds. Hopefully you remember what all of those means, and if not, you know you can always rewind the video and go back and watch the parts that you need. Thanks so much for joining me today on our lesson on geometry. I hope you're enjoying these KCS at home. I'm so proud of you for working on your math while you're at home this summer. It's going to be a big help to you next year in third grade. Have a great day.